Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner and user of Mint Mobile. And I am recording this message on my phone. I'm literally on my Mint phone. Why? Because fancy recording studios cost money. And if we spent money on things like that, we couldn't offer you screaming deals. Like if you sign up now for 3 months, you get 3 months free on every one of your plans, even unlimited. Visit mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time new customer offer. Activate within 45 days. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. Unlimited customers using more than 40 gigabytes per month will experience lower speeds. Video streams at 480p. See mintmobile.com for details.
Hello and happy holiday season. Welcome to episode number 592 of Smart Podcast Trashy Books. I'm Sarah Wendell, and my guests this week are all of you. It is time for our holiday wishes, book recommendations, and actually dreadful jokes with listeners and reviewers as my guests. Every year, I invite the review team from Smart Bitches and the members of the podcast Patreon to connect with me for a very brief interview. And these episodes are so popular. They're like weekly hugs for your ears and your brain and another hug for your TBR because it's definitely going to get a little bigger. In our first of our Holiday Wishes series, I am joined by Agnès, Sue, Joe, and Varian. Happy holidays from all of us to all of you. I want to say hello and thank you, especially to the Patreon community. Clearly, one of the perks is getting to talk to me on Zoom and tell me all about your favorite books, but there are many other perks. And I have a compliment this week to Lauren H. You know the feeling of seeing candlelight in warm, dark places, like the glow of the flame is contagious? That's how you make your friends feel every day. If you've supported the show with a monthly pledge of any amount, thank you. You are helping me keep going every week. You're making sure every episode has a transcript that is hand-compiled by Garlic Knitter. Howdy, Garlic Knitter. If you'd like to join the Patreon community, have a look at patreon.com/smartbitches. Monthly pledges start at $1. And hello to Kimberly S., who is the newest member of our Patreon. Support for this episode comes from Lumi Deodorant. If you are thinking of gifting, you might not be thinking deodorant. But did you know that Lumi is at the top of the most wished-for list on Amazon for personal care? It's true. Lumi is a game-changing whole-body deodorant designed by an OBGYN that is clinically proven to block odor all day long, thanks to its one-of-a-kind pH-optimized formula. And they've got over 275,000 five-star reviews to show for it. We have a special offer. New customers get $5 off Lumi's starter pack with our exclusive code. And for a limited time, returning customers can get $5 off their next purchase of $30 or more, too. Use code SARAH30 at lumideodorant.com. That's LUMEDEODORANT.com. Yeah, and deodorant is a word I have to spell more than once, too. I've been doing a lot of research for beauty products, for our gift guides, and for gifting, and the online love for Lumi is really something. People who are stressed about body odor love Lumi because they know it works. The reviews online are really touching and honest about how much Lumi has helped people. On a more personal level, I like it, and my teenagers like it too, also because it works. The teenagers like it because it lasts a really long time. And Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off Lumi's starter pack with our exclusive code and link. And for a limited time, returning customers can get $5 off their next purchase of $30 or more, too. Use code SARAH30 at lumideodorant.com. That's LUMEDEODORANT.com. And thank you to Lumi for underwriting this episode and for making this holiday season smell a whole lot better. I love doing these episodes, and I know from the stats that I have that they are very popular, so I hope you are as excited as I am to start our Holiday Wishes series. Please introduce yourself and tell the people who will be listening who you are and where you are in the world. If you don't have to be as inspecific as you want.
Hi everyone, I'm Agnès. I'm one of the many listeners of the show and one of the Patreon supporters. I live in Dordrecht, the Netherlands. That's about it.
All right. So what is a book that you really enjoyed this year?
That's possibly even easier than my name this year.
Right?
I realized that in January I took a trip to a tiny little film festival up north in the country. And I bought Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. It's sort of in the run-up to that. And I started reading it. It's a 4-hour trip by train, and then it's another hour by boat to the island. And I just sat there sort of with my nose sort of buried in that book. And that was in January. And then in May, I read the same book all over again. And then in October, I read the same book all over again. So Nettle and Bone, absolutely. Book of the year for me. And then I thought, I think I read some other of her books, of Kingfisher's books. And I'm on track to read about 80 books this year, but which is not, not bad. That was Nettle and Bone, The Clockwork Boys, The Wonder Engine, Paladin's Grace, Paladin's Strength, Paladin's Hope, The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, which is absolutely as much fun as it sounds like, and What Moved the Dead, which was slightly scarier than I like. Which means that she's sort of, if you don't count the rereads, she's 10% of my reading this year. Part 4 of the Paladin series is coming out next week, so yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure someone's going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, they're so good. It is delightful watching people in different parts of the internet discover Kingfisher's books. It's so fun.
It's amazing. And yeah. And I just checked her Tumblr the other day and she's not having the best year health-wise.
No, she's not.
I'm so glad something else is going right for her.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. So what wishes do you have for everyone listening?
I hope you have lots of good company, or at least as much as you want, and something nice to eat.
I love that. That's perfect. Good people and good food, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now this is the hard part. Did you bring a joke?
I stole one from the internet.
Those are the best kind.
It's wait, I have this entire tag on my Tumblr that goes Badum Tish. And
Tish.
So this is a screenshot of a Twitter joke by Mariana Z or Z. I never know which one you guys have.
We use the Z, but it's fine.
Where do bad rainbows go?
Where do bad rainbows go? I don't know.
To prison. It's a light sentence, but it gives them time to reflect.
No! Oh, it's got 3 punchlines. Oh, that's wow. I have to say, being on the receiving end of the jokes is quite an experience. Now I know how all of you feel when I come up with a real corker. Wow.
Every week on Friday morning, at some point, I'll be walking around the house, sort of doing Friday things, and some point I'll go, no, and my cat will be, are you okay?
Wow. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have put myself on the receiving end. This is going to be brutal. Thank you so much, Agnès. This has been so delightful, and it's so nice to meet you in person. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast community, and thank you for listening to the show. It means a lot.
It's a absolutely favorite part of the Friday every week.
Hi, my name is Sue. I'm in the Los Angeles area, and I've been a Smart Bitches Trashy Books reader for a long, long time.
Yes. Yes. And I think this is the second or third time we've spoken for the holiday episodes.
I think it's the second. Yeah.
Yay. All right. So you know how this works. Tell me about a book that you really, really enjoyed this year.
So I pulled up my reading list because I was like, I haven't read very much. And then I was like, oh no, 37 books. That's pretty good.
That's fabulous. Hell yeah.
But I had like forgotten half of them. So I was like, oh, I did read those. Huh. So I would say this year, I really started the year hard, with Katie Roberts.
Oh,
a lot of the Dark Olympus. So the problem is that like when you join a series 5 books in, I think it's like great for the first month because you're like, la, 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 this is amazing. And then you catch up to her publication schedule, which is a normal human. Actually, she's a pretty superhuman writer. So like they're coming out, but I was like, it's not coming out at the rate with which I would like to consume.
Yep.
So I went through, I think the first 4 or 5 Dark Olympus ones. And then I just was like, now I wait. Like a normal person. And it was awful. But I loved all of them. I think my favorite of the ones that are out was probably Radiant Sin is the one with like a house party. And it's like, I think it's that one. That's the one where like they're at a house party and it's Apollo and it's like, it's really nice. And then I don't know, all of them were really good. So highly recommend the Dark Olympus series. She writes fast too.
She does.
And then, the thing I really want, when I was looking at it, I was like, I really want to impress upon this. Like, I just finished a webtoon, my first webtoon ever.
Oh,
once again, the algorithm knows me. Like I'm just getting let big data control my life.
That's fine.
Scrolling. And then like book talk, problems with book talk. But some woman comes on the screen and she's like doing the whole thing where you're pointing at the screen behind you. And she's like, I need you all to get on this webtoon. What is a webtoon? So she explained, like, I felt like an old, right? It was like, what is a webtoon? And she's like, this webtoon is called Marry My Husband. And the premise is this woman dies terribly and goes back 10 years. This is not a spoiler. It's like the premise, right? So she dies terribly and goes back and has all these regrets and goes back 10 years in her life. And she wakes up and realizes she's been granted a second chance. And it's crazy. So good, so dramatic. I loved it. And thank God it was done by the time I started reading it, because then I didn't run into the whole like having to wait and like getting frustrated. So I just finished it. And then I found out that Netflix is making it into a K-drama or not Netflix. It is being made into a K-drama that will be on Netflix soon thereafter. And it starts in January.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited. Like it was so dramatic. It was a lot like a romance novel, but like sometimes when I have like a kind of a reading slump, like audiobooks help. I think this webtoon really helped because it was like,
well, it's doing some of the cognitive lifting, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like the same way that an audiobook is telling you the story, the webtoon is providing the visuals. So it's doing a lot of the work, the cognitive work of a narrative that otherwise you would do with just plain text in a book and do all of that yourself.
Yeah. It was like, let me tell you a story. And I was like, great, tell me a story.
Pretty colors. I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah, it was incredible. So I wasn't a kid who grew up reading like manga or anything like that.
Right.
Or like anime. So like a lot of this was like very unknown to me. I literally texted my friend, how do I read a webtoon? I was like, I'm sorry, I'm so old, but I'm sorry, I'm so out of touch, but like, how do I? And she's like, this is the URL. I found it for you. And I was like, thank you.
Oh, awesome.
And she was like, it looks like it's mostly translated or completely translated, so you should be good to go. And I was like, okay. And then like a week and a half later, I resurfaced and I was like, everyone must read this. It is batshit and it's so good. And the twist was so good, I had to put my phone down and take a lap around the room.
No.
It was very good.
Oh, wow. And of course, this is the type of thing where you start reading and you can't stop, right?
Yeah. Like Thanksgiving, like turkey in the oven. I was like leaned up against the oven and I was like, just one more chapter.
I have been known to schedule things for dinner when I am reading a book where I can read with one hand and just stir with the other. Like if all I have to do is stir or put something in the oven or whatever, I have been known to reserve recipes for when I am reading and I just want to stir something.
Yeah. You're like, well, for dinner, I ate this book.
Yeah. So what holiday wishes do you have for the people who are listening?
So last year, I remember, because I wished everyone like a cozy holiday, as much or as little as you wanted.
Yeah.
I think this year, similar, but also I feel like we're learning that the world is on fire and always on fire, right? It's just a new, different fire, right?
Yep.
So like
different fire every day.
Fire every day. And I think partly is because we know about them. And the information is available now. And then you have to sift through it and figure out whether or not it's computer generated or not.
Yep.
So there's just so much cognitive effort in existing.
Yep.
Which sounds so crazy, but like to exist is very cognitively tiring.
Yes.
I think my new hope for myself and for others is like taking it easy and giving yourself the ability to go for the long run. The long haul is if you're lucky, is a really long haul. And that's the goal, right? Is to age and to get older and to look older, because like that's a privilege, right?
Yes.
But so the privilege of having a long, long existence is understanding that you can't burn fast and burn out.
Yeah.
So that's my goal for the holidays, that like you actually get to do some holiday stuff, knowing that the world's on fire. But listen, the world's going to continue to be on fire. So like you have to like balance them and navigate sort of yourself and your place in the world at the same time. So I don't know if it's hopeful so much as like it's a recognition that it's difficult.
Yeah.
And a recognition that you can have lots of things. You can have joy in this little pocket. You can be outraged about other things. You can be working toward bigger goals, but you can also be like, you know what? Time out. I'm just going to go stare at some twinkle lights for like 20 minutes.
Yep. And it's okay if you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a bad joke? Did you bring one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is the best part. This is the best part of these because everyone gets to turn the bad jokes back on me like over and over and over.
No, I take your jokes because I love them. So the one that I loved is not seasonal, was from a while ago. And for whatever reason, I always tell myself I want to remember all of them. But this is the only one that I have remembered without ever having to look it up again, this was yours. It was, what is a baby owl that just got out of the bath? A moist owlette.
Yes.
I don't know why that's so funny.
It is so funny.
Funny. And then the one that I like is seasonal that I really like, that I stole from my friend who apparently stole from like a Snapple cap or something, was, what do you call Santa Claus's little helpers?
What?
Subordinate clauses.
That is fabulous.
There have been a couple where you said it, I would say out loud during the podcast. Oh my God, Sarah.
That is the best. That is so great. Thank you.
Like you had just told me the actual joke and I'm like, oh my God.
See, knowing that people talk back is the greatest. Like I'm a big fan of everybody talking back. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for running this every year. It's really fun to hear everyone's thoughts and like their wishes and what they read this year. Although that gets kind of deadly because then I go, oh yeah, me too. Because I forget. I go, oh yeah, me too. And then boop, 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 boop. And then suddenly.
Yep. It's true. I look back at my reading for this year and I'm like, oh, that was this year? Like Prince Harry's book was this year? It was the same year as this one? Amazing to me. Like, I can't believe that.
So my name's Jo. I'm Canadian, but I live in England, sort of northern England. I'm in the Peak District.
Oh.
So the view out my window is absolutely gorgeous because there are really nice hills and I'm not fit enough to walk up them, but many people do. So that's where I live. It's been really nice and sunny and cold, which is much nicer than November was, which was sort of just above freezing and kind of drizzly and dark.
Yeah. So what is a book that you really enjoyed this year?
So I actually went into my Goodreads because I read on a Kindle, so it kind of is really easy to keep up there. And I read like 108 books so far this year.
Wow. Well done.
I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Exactly. But I was like, is this the year that Killers of a Certain Age came out? And it was. I read that at the beginning of the year, and I did really enjoy that. And then the other thing I really noticed about my reading this year, and I went and looked and checked against last year, is that I read a lot more mysteries this year. I didn't read any last year. And you had recommended the Veronica Speedwell series, and I'd read that and really enjoyed that as well. So I guess maybe it was Deanna Rayburn's year for me a little bit. So yeah, I really enjoyed those. And I always enjoy anything Alexis Hall puts out. And he seems to have done 3 this year. So
that's awesome. I also reread the entire Veronica Speedwell series on audio. One after the other. Like that was exactly my series for the year too.
We did chat about that. Yeah. And that was one of the other things I did this year that I haven't really done before. I've never really been much of a rereader. And this year I did do some rereading, especially if like a new book in a series came out. I sometimes just read the whole series before I read the new one. And I also did a bunch of like binging series. Like I found a series that was already most of the way in and binged a few series. So that I kind of really enjoyed some of that sometimes this year.
It's really fun to get started on a series and think, wow, I know exactly what I'm doing for the next few weeks then. Ha ha. Choices made. I don't need to think too hard. I know exactly what book I'll be reading next.
Yes, exactly.
So what holiday wishes do you have for everyone listening?
So I was thinking about this, and my typical thing I work with academics. I'm like coach for academics. And almost everybody that works in education by this time of year is exhausted.
Yes.
So my normal holiday wish, which I think I will stick with, is to wish people rest and joy. And then I was just thinking, the dystopia situation that we have been experiencing now for several years has not been easing up and seems to be getting a bit worse this year.
Yeah.
And I felt like, well, maybe people would find rest and joy, maybe like, well, that's impossible, or that would be indulgent given everything.
Yep.
And I still wish you rest and joy. And I think I hope people feel or find some way to indulge in some rest and some sort of tiny form of joy, whatever kind of joy they can find, even if all those things happen to be small and not enough.
Yeah.
Because of all the awful. So that's my wish.
That is a lovely wish. When I was looking back at this year's, my reading of this year, I was shocked that the first book I read this year was Rest is Resistance by Trisha Hersey. And I looked at that and I thought, okay, first of all, I need to reread it because I don't remember any of what I read because I know it made an impact on me. But also, that was a year ago. That was it. That feels like 5 years ago. But it's never a bad message to be like, no, you need to rest. You can't do all the things if you don't rest.
And I did buy that, but I haven't read it. So that might be a thing I should do over the over the holiday is maybe read that.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for asking us to do this. It's really fun. And thank you for everything you do. A lot of my reading is, inspired by the podcast and the website. So thank you very much.
That is such a lovely compliment. Most of the time I'm, sitting here alone in my office. So it's really nice to talk to everybody who I'm talking to all the time. So thank you, and have a wonderful holiday.
And you too.
Hi, my name is Varian Ross. I'm an author, but that's not what this talk's about. So
that's okay. It could be many things.
I've had a couple short stories and some poetry published. And one of my wins of 2023 was I finished draft 0 and have moved to draft 1 of a novella.
Yay! That's a good feeling. Well done.
I finished draft 0 and I was like, what?
What? I finished the thing. How did I do that? So speaking of writing, what book did you really enjoy this year?
I have several. Is that okay?
That is always okay.
Good. One really surprised me. It was Prince Harry's autobiography.
Yep, me too.
I listened to it.
Oh, so did I. He did an amazing job narrating, didn't he?
Such a good job narrating.
Even the parts that dragged, I was like, this is so impressive, especially narrating his own story when it's so sad.
The parts after his mom died, I was like, oh, you poor kid. This is horrible.
Yeah. But did you enjoy the book overall?
Yes. Overall, I really, really enjoyed it. And it took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it.
I would have said that he was a shoo-in for a Grammy for Best Narration and Audiobook, except that Barbara Streisand's autobiography also came out this year. And the audiobook, I kid you not, is 48 hours long.
What the fuck?
It is like a 900-page autobiography. The audiobook is 48 hours. And the people who I have listened, who I've heard talking about listening to it say that Barbara just telling you all her business is incredibly good. So I have that on hold at the library.
48
hours.
Hours.
Yeah, and people say it's incredible. So I'm really curious. Like, I don't watch the Grammys. Like, I don't stay up late. I'm certainly not staying up late for an award show that's like really, really long. I might pay attention to who wins the audiobook Grammy this year because it's going to be quite a race. So what surprised you about Prince Harry's Spare?
I think what surprised me was how emotional it was.
Yeah.
And I was texting my friends about it. Like, even the part where he was in the army, that did take me by surprise.
Yeah.
because, being from America, I don't know much about the royal family.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about his military service.
Yeah.
And I was texting my friends about it. And I said, what stuck with me was where he says, I know my life is fucked up because this is the first time I have ever felt normal.
Yes.
Was boot camp in the Army.
Yeah.
Because that just that just really, really struck me.
Yeah. So you mentioned you had more than one book. What other books really rocked your world?
Killers of a Certain Age.
Yes. You are not the first person to mention that book this year. That book rocked, didn't it?
It was the first I had ever read Deanna Rayborn. I hadn't read any of the mysteries. I'd gotten it, on sale from one of the books on sale post. I just hadn't read it yet. And, then my sight changed and that really shifted my ability to read text. I still can, but I can't sit down and read a book for, several hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen to a lot more books. And I've discovered that I like being able to go back and forth between the audio and the text.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because that way, if I'm tired of a narrator's voice, because that does happen.
Yes.
I can just move over to the text version.
Yep. Absolutely true.
And I love Killers of a Certain Age. I flew through it in 3 days. And that is the fastest I've read anything novel length this year.
Wow. So what other book rocked your world, or was it two?
One that rocked my world, not because it was, super great, but because it was Mystery Science Theater 3000 of texting my friends about it and laughing at it, was Anne Rice's Sleeping Beauty series.
Really?
Not because, they're super well written or anything, but of the experience of texting my friends Anne what? Anne no! Anne, you need a flared bass for that kind of thing.
Please do not do that, Anne. Please stop.
Yes, Anne don't. Anne, why? What? Anne, that's an interesting word choice there. So that experience of texting all my friends about it, 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
That sounds like it would be good for a live performance reading in a group with a lot of alcohol.
Yes, that's basically what we did.
Brilliant.
It's assumed the whole thing was, generic off-world fantasy land. And then it's dropped in book 3 that, oh no, this takes place in Europe. And I just ripped the rug out from under my reading experience. And I sat there trying to figure out where exactly is this happening?
Right.
And my friends and I figured out maybe somewhere in Spain. Because that's the only place we could think of that's warm enough that everyone can be running around naked 24/7.
Where is this happening? What is happening? Where am I?
Yes, exactly.
So are there any other books you wanted to mention, or would you like to move on to holiday wishes for everyone listening?
What I'm currently listening to, actually, Lovecraft Country.
Oh, interesting.
Matt Ruff. In part because, the audiobook. The narrator has such a good voice.
That is excellent. A good voice really makes a difference, right?
Yes, a good voice to the point I looked up who the narrator was in my library app. And I went through and I marked other books he narrates.
Wow.
Read this. It is not a novel as it's one long narration. It's closer to a collection of linked short stories.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to the 30% mark where the first story ended, and I was very confused.
Wait, but it's not over. But it's over. But it's not over.
30%, but this part's over. Where are you going with this?
Right.
And then I realized, it's a collection of linked short stories where everyone has their own experiences with this particular terrible family.
Ah. And the narrator is Kevin Kennerly?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. They've done so many things. So what are your holiday wishes for everyone listening?
My holiday wishes for everyone, probably that you get to take naps.
Yes.
Because, naps are important. And just that you are able to get a break when you need it, and that you get the support in the form that you need and not the support that other people think you need.
That's a very important distinction, isn't it?
Yeah. And, I say that as I'm blind, and you have no idea, sighted people. There are things I need help with, yeah, but also, like, there's stuff I can totally do on my own, and people who can see are like, let me help you with this. And I'm like, I've got it. Which, another favorite book, The Arrangement by Mary Baylog.
Oh, really?
Can't believe I forgot that one.
Why did you like that one?
In part, I really, really, really related to Vincent.
Right.
Because of my own, he completely lost his sight. I still have some.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, really related to him as the part where a lot in the book, he talks a lot about how, I'm blind, but my life is still worth living.
Yeah.
And that really stayed with me.
Yeah.
And it is just a beautifully written historical romance all around. And there is no act-free breakup.
I love when there is not.
I was going to say, I don't know if that's a Mary Baylog thing, but I've read 2 of her books so far, and they have not had act-free breakups. Because I really, really hate the act-free breakups.
I get it. It's like when you read and you kind of sense that it's coming, you start to mentally brace yourself for something that's really painful, and you don't want to have to process that so late in the game. Yeah, I completely get it.
Yeah, The Arrangement, I kept bracing myself for every other historical I've read in the decade I've been reading romance, there's been an act-free breakup. And I kept bracing myself, and I'm like, it's at 90%. How is she gonna do this? And it didn't happen. And I was like, phew.
Such a relief.
Yes.
So do you have a bad joke?
I do have a bad joke.
Oh, yes. Tell me your terrible, terrible joke.
Well, to the relief of my eye doctors, I do not have a sight-related joke. Once upon a time, there was a monk. Because he walked everywhere, his feet had lots of calluses on them. Because he ate the food that was given to him, and it was summertime, the food had many herbs and many spices, particularly onion and garlic. That made his breath smell pretty terrible. But because of all this, and because of his vows of poverty, his health was not very good. And so all of this combined, he became a supercalifragilisticexpialitosis by halitosis.
Supercalist is, you know, whoever thought of that is just like, oh, yes, I've got this. That. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this interview. It is really, really fun to talk to everybody, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I had a lot of fun.
Yay. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you to Agnès, Sue, Joe, and Varian for connecting with me. Next week, we will have part 2 of our Romantic Times Rewind exploration of the ads and features of the July 2004 issue. The ads are incredible. And then on the 22nd, the 29th, and the 5th, we will have holiday wishes from so many people around the world. I am so excited to do all of these. I also want to thank you for the reviews. I had mentioned in a previous episode that I had reviews on Apple, and then they disappeared, and I didn't know where they went. And y'all, wow, y'all really came through for me. Thank you. Josie Lynn, y'all, wrote, "You would be amazed the crap I've learned from this podcast." Huge backlog if you need something to binge on a car trip. Now, there are 592 episodes now. So I'm guessing that if you're driving and you're listening to the whole backlog, you're going to the moon, which is probably a very nice drive. Certainly it's going to be quiet. I also end with a bad joke. Even though you heard so many, I'm going to say one more because I am terrible. This joke comes from Malara from our podcast Patreon Discord, which is another reason to join the Patreon. Did you hear about the hiking trail where you will always meet a guy named Nicholas? It's true. There's a hiking trail where you will always see this guy named Nicholas. It's a scenic trail. I told that to the family and I got a so it's really bad. On behalf of everyone here, literally everyone listening, we wish you the very best of reading and a happy holiday season. Be warm and be safe, and we'll see you back here next week. Smart Podcast Trashy Books is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find outstanding podcasts to subscribe to at frolic.media/podcasts. Scenic.